Hello, welcome to the first pass of concepting Lancelot for Chaos Kart. So here I'm going to be starting just working in Photoshop, doing some very quick silhouettes. I talked with Danny about the kind of character he wanted and what styles he was going for, and with his help I created a style guide which has examples and references from real life and target styles that we want to hit with our characters. You can see I have some of my reference photos up in my document in the top left corner. Those help make characters look cohesive when they're all together, even though they were created and worked on by many different people. So here my silhouettes start really general before I get into the swing of things. Some people, they can jump right in, but I need to loosen up a bit before I get really good silhouettes. So I end up making probably a few more than I've seen some artists do, just because it takes me a little longer to get back into the swing of things. A good rule of thumb for silhouettes is to make sure that they go fast. You shouldn't be too concentrated and focused on details. You should really just be looking at major shapes. Something that helps with staying simple with this kind of workflow is by using a larger brush. So I'm using a bit of a larger triangle brush that I made a number of years ago, just for sketching. As more and more of these silhouettes get added, you can see that I'm using different shapes, and starting with this one, you'll see that a lot of the shapes get repeated over and over again in the same silhouette. This character in particular is supposed to give off an air of arrogance, kind of like Prince Charming from Shrek, so kind of a stuck-up pretty boy. We really wanted the blonde prince look, but he's got a darker undertone, so I started using shapes here like diamonds and triangles to convey kind of a sense of danger. So Lancelot's overall theme is kind of a holy knight, but with shadowy powers and undertones. So we wanted him to be quite top heavy, and have like one large arm or gauntlet that he kind of has these menacing powers in. So when doing these, I tried to keep that in mind. With silhouettes, you kind of want to take the opportunity to convey what your character is about without going into like huge details. So I should be able to understand that this guy has like a really cool weapon on his arm just from the silhouette phase. This is also a good phase where you want to be able to really try anything. So with like these weird, more rounded shapes, they didn't work out in the end, but it's good to really explore all possible options, especially while you're doing stuff that is supposed to only take about 30 seconds each. And this is the stage where you kind of want to try everything and make mistakes, because it's not time consuming to make mistakes here. And you should try to explore every option to be sure you're not missing something that could look super cool just because you think it might not work out. So this is number 7, and it's kind of where I started to hit my stride a little bit more. So you'll see that I started deciding on pointier shapes from here on out. I do a couple more rounded ones just to get that variation in, but after looking at my references and the kind of character we wanted to create, a lot of the more pointed shapes really stuck out as being more unique and interesting to look at. I tried a couple of rectangular ones as well to get that kind of heavy feeling, but again, they didn't really seem to fit the kind of arrogant Prince Charming feel. It feels a little bit more like a character who would be a bruiser or a big heavy hitter all around, instead of just kind of an arrogant prince with a cool gauntlet. definitely carries more of like a golem type feel, which isn't what we were aiming for. So this is my first round of silhouettes that I'm doing here. I go through a couple of different ones, so what I usually do is make at least 10, like bare minimum, of a character, and do like a wide breadth of shapes to kind of explore general directions, and then I will ask for feedback or go with instincts on usually 1 to 3 to pick from that original group, and then start mixing and matching elements from them in order to find out like what we get good responses from, what we like, what we don't like, and then kind of just start mixing and matching and changing elements around to find what suits our character best, for both gameplay, ease of modeling, all that good stuff. Something to consider that you don't necessarily have to keep in mind for this first original set is where this design will be going afterwards. So someone's going to have to model this, and it's also going to have to be animated and function properly in-game, so depending on what you're doing, you can't make stuff that's like super out there, because someone else is going to have to create based off of your 2D drawing. One thing that's pretty obvious with a lot of these is that we have a very asymmetrical silhouette, and that puts a lot of heavy focus and emphasis on his left arm. Asymmetrical silhouettes are automatically more interesting because your eye isn't just resting on something symmetrical. So it's good to have asymmetry for interest, and this starts getting pushed a lot more in the later silhouettes. Especially right here too with that original like crazy wing design, before I decided it was a little too overboard at some point. Same thing with the swan feather cape in the back. This one just felt a little too fantasy, so you had to bring it down a little bit. It also looks a little bit more like maybe a robotic enemy type than it does a person, so this one didn't get carried on. Here's my final lineup of silhouettes that I had. I went back and edited a couple of the other original early ones, and refined a couple of the later ones, and then kind of picked out the ones that we thought had some potential. So here I'm going in, and this is where I'm starting to detail things out a little bit to clean and refine them, and start testing out ideas to kind of combine elements from these together. The ones that got picked are, for the most part, the pointier ones, and the ones with the exaggerated asymmetry. And then the third one was just picked to kind of have like a middle ground, like a slightly more like boring option to pull from. So we're doing different variations of each one, kind of filling in the silhouette. This part also allows for digger deeping into character, because at this point we're also thinking about things like heraldry and icons, thinking about what his arm is made out of, what it looks like, armor structure, all that stuff. So again, just starting with that original silhouette and then taking away and refining certain shapes to add some variation to see kind of what is working and what is not. So one thing to keep in mind was that we wanted to have a place where he could have like an icon or a symbol of heraldry somewhere on his armor. So we're looking to have at least 1 or 2 spaces on there somewhere where that can be incorporated. So during this process we figured out we wanted to lean less into armor and straps and a little more into just like solid plate. This process also really helped solidify the kind of shapes we really wanted to go for, which ended up being the first one on the left. It just kind of has a good balance between looking dangerous but not looking like more of a brute or a bruiser character. This last guy here was definitely kind of a, hey, I'm here as an option sort of pick. We kind of just wanted to take him and see what we could do. Looks a bit better when he's filled in, but he looks a little bit too weak and not self-assured to be the kind of character we were looking for. He does make a really good candidate for some of our other kind of minion-esque characters that we have on one of the Castle World tracks, though. Which is why it's a good idea to go through and do these silhouettes, because you might end up with material for other concepts that you need at some point as well. And then here is actually also where I got the original design for the final sort of arm and gauntlet, as well as that shoulder there. So even though this guy wasn't originally picked, I ended up taking elements from him and combining them with the first silhouette to get closer to the final design. And that's the final lineup. So here you can see that I took the arm and the shoulders from the original first silhouette and tacked them on. And then we can go in and continue to detail. Messing with some simple heraldry at this point, making changes to shoulders to emphasize the shape language on the left and right side, adjusting helmets, and this is where you can really kind of get detailed as you keep narrowing down kind of the elements that you want to emphasize in your character. The little tabard thing was cool, but kind of in the way, so I went for an alternate one without it. It didn't match our real world reference material and would get kind of in the way for modeling and actual gameplay, like visual purposes, so I opted to axe it. Detailing out the forms in the arm a little bit more. Thinking about armor and how that layers on, and then just adding some like cool stuff on that helmet. So he's gonna have like cool glowy eyes. Kind of want that shape language to match the shadowy stuff coming off of his gauntlet. Really push like the asymmetry. Did some like asymmetrical stuff on his knees as well, and then ended up not using it or getting rid of it because, again, this is where you have to take gameplay into consideration. This guy's gonna be riding a chariot, and you're just not gonna see his knees. Like, they're not gonna be shown very much, so there's really no point in investing like some shadowy VFX down there when it's not going to be seen very much, and we really want the focus to be kind of on his torso and his arm. Here I'm trying to even out values a little bit. If we want his left side to have the shadowy gauntlet, we want that to be a bit darker, and then I figured we'd want the right side to be a little bit lighter, to just kind of give that Holy Knight using shadow powers balancing act to show through a bit more. So I'm just going through here and lightening everything up with erasing. So eraser is just as an important tool as your brush. It's just a different way of applying value. You're just taking it away instead. And give an eraser as like a sculpting tool. Experimenting with adding some different kind of diamond shapes in here. Especially with that pauldron. And generally you want to repeat things across a character design. And odd numbers are better on the eyes than even, so I tried to split them up around the body and in varying sizes. Went with a cool helmet on this guy, kind of looks like a volcano. I'd referenced some heraldry at this point and found that Lancelot and a bunch of other fictional knights have a ton of heraldry that was made for them, and his is just like a simple sash like that. I believe it's like a diagonal red line across a field of white. So I took that and just started using it as a design element. Super simple, easy to incorporate, no fancy emblems or anything to distract from the character. The strong diagonal line also gives him kind of a really good sense of movement. Trying to bring back the tabard thing here doesn't really work. I don't end up keeping it. It's just too flowy, doesn't fit with the rest of his design. And again, we want the focus to be on his torso. I kind of fill in the VFX here, since the gauntlet is supposed to be kind of shadow powered. And it kind of reaches up into the shoulder as well. Trying to do some like clever stuff by putting his heraldry on that tabard cloth. Didn't work. Got rid of that. But it's good to try everything, just so you know if it works or not.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Baka Bros Entertainment for more updates on our game development videos. And just remember, keep on developing, bros.